Right, there we go. As I said, so we're going to be having a presentation this morning from Tom McCabe, who's the head of paid service at Norfolk County Council. While Tom's speaking to his presentation, I would ask if you can keep your microphones on mute, and that way we don't get any interruptions when your cat comes asking to be let out into the snow. If you do have any questions that occur to you whilst Tom is speaking, if you can post those in the chat, then we'll come round to those at the end of the presentation. And then once we've done that, we'll open it up to a more general question and answer session, which we'll run live. So, as I said, today's speaker is Tom McCabe, head of paid service at Norfolk County Council. And he's going to be talking to us about the deal that Norfolk County Council has negotiated with the government to allow the devolution of services. Sarah, if you could start sharing your screen now, please. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. And Tom, it's over to you now.
Chairman, thank you very much. And Sarah, if you can move us on to the next slide. I've got just 6 or 7 slides that I'll run us through, hopefully just to build up some background knowledge around the deal. And then hopefully we'll get into the real meat in the question and answer session at the end. The background is very much, it's part of your government's wider aspirations, levelling up the country. We've heard for several years now. It's very much part of government policy and part of the wider levelling up and regeneration bill, which the former Prime Minister was talking about, levelling up the country, very much the back of the Conservative success around Red Wall seats, and how can they move some of the opportunity and indeed prosperity from the south of England through the Midlands and the north and areas that don't perform as well economically. And the 4 points that you see there, those are themes that run through the levelling up bill. Things as intangible, if you use that, your sense of community, local pride and belonging, almost takes us back to sort of David Cameron and some of the big society work. And the county council has been negotiating with government over a period of time, and now has secured an in-principle agreement to take a county deal forward. And if it passes all of its approval, both at county council level, Norfolk level, and at government level, it would take effect from May 24. And I can come on to the timelines at the back end of the presentation. So next one, please, Sarah. You personally, whether it was whenever I worked in Cheshire, Shropshire, and sort of in my previous role in highways and other things within Norfolk, you have sought to work with town and parish councils. I know that we do some things well together, and I suspect everybody in the room today could probably take 3, 4 or 5 things that town and parishes and the county council could do better. This, I would suggest to you, is another hook and another opportunity to both engage with the county council and indeed influence the direction of the county council over the coming years, especially if the deal comes to fruition. What I will say is, unlike, for example, Cambridgeshire, where there's a directly elected mayor and a combined authority, that has effectively created an extra tier of local government in Cambridgeshire. In the Norfolk situation, that the county deal as it stands would be formally a deal between the county council and government. So it would be passing extra powers to the county council. It wouldn't be about creating an extra layer of governance within Norfolk. And next one, please. I think a fair question is, where will a county deal make a difference? What are the areas that it'll have traction around? And the deal has been structured by government to tackle these types of areas. What it doesn't do at this point in time, at least, it doesn't look at children's services, it doesn't look at social care, it doesn't look at health, but there's things around economic growth, infrastructure, skills, housing, environment. Those are the areas that are covered off in the first, I'll describe it as draft of the bill. And again, if we look at what's happened elsewhere in the country, Manchester was first to go, and Manchester are up to iteration, is it 6 or 7 of their deals? So they negotiate the first deal, they continue to talk with government, and additional powers, responsibilities, and funding has come their way over the years. So my advice would be, you have to view this as a first step, not the ultimate destination itself. Next one, please, Sarah. Thanks very much. And there's a number of benefits. Fair question again. Is it a good deal? At this point in time, it's the best deal that's on offer from government. The various metrics and investment sums, Norfolk has done well in that, matching our exceeding in some areas what has been offered elsewhere. Underpinned from the point of view of cash by an investment fund, a guaranteed 20 million a year over 30 years, not index linked. So that's it's 20 million. What I would say, of course, is that take what's on offer now and then negotiate further deals as opportunities arise. Beyond that, we've managed to negotiate some other add-ons, additional investment in areas like Narrows and Kings Lynn, some additional affordable housing provision in the county, which we're hoping to get announced soon, and opportunities for the offshore industry around Great Yarmouth. There's also funding in it to some core funding for a couple of years around local transport plans as to how can we decarbonize that. Outside of the funding, again, the opportunity and what government is keen on doing is having the directly elected leader gives you that opportunity to have a seat around the table with ministers when they're meeting other directly elected mayors and leaders, the 10 or so that there are in the country at this point in time. It gives us opportunity to move some decision making from Whitehall to Norfolk. It will create, as I said in an earlier slide, the opportunity for discussions in Norfolk. So what's the county council's relationship with business going to be? What's the county council's relationship with the district councils as our planning authorities? What's our ongoing relationship with our town and parish councils and at a community level? And my final point, I've said again, it's a step on the ladder. It isn't going to solve all of our problems as a county council or as a county, but it does move us into a different place and allows us to have a different discussion with government. And to me, that seems to be an opportunity that it would be wrong for us to pass up. Next one, please, Sarah. As I said, it's ultimately going to be a deal between the county council and government. There won't be an extra tier of governance. the county council will still be will be governed by, if the deal proceeds, a directly elected leader and cabinet. Elections would be in May 2024, a bit like the PCC. So on a county-wide basis, we would all have the opportunity to choose the individual who we would want to be the directly elected leader of the county council. They would then choose their cabinet from amongst other county councillors. Opportunities and indeed expectation from government is around bringing other key stakeholders to the table around what we're calling the Norfolk Leadership Board, so that we can have other voices outside the county council represented. Government have signalled their intention to wind up the local enterprise partnerships. Again, as part of the county deal proposal, we would establish a business board so that we ensure that we have a strong business voice in informing the work that we do around economic development. And importantly, there are no change to the roles, the statutory responsibilities of town, parish, district or borough councils. It's additional powers to the county council. It's no changes to the other layers of governance within Norfolk. And next one, please. So many of you will be aware that we're in the middle of a public consultation, a combination of online your facilities. We've run and continue to run a number of events in various of our market towns across the county. There is the web address there where people can complete our consultation online, and we're making that available to people who want it in paper copy as well. Next slide. A consultation runs until the 20th of March. There will be two, there's a legislative and an administrative requirement. The county council will have to resolve to change its governance model to the directly elected leader model, rather than our present leader typically being selected by the largest group within the county council. And government will have to pass the necessary legislation, which is in track at this point in time, to confer the appropriate powers across to the county council, with the directly elected leader elections programmed for May 2024, assuming, I'll say again, assuming that all parties decide to proceed with it. So, Chairman, that takes me to the end of my formal presentation. So, really happy to throw it open to questions.
Can I ask a question, please? Paul Roberts from Hingham Town Council. How are you going to dish out the £20 million? How is that going to be worked? If that's, how does that get split between each parish or town council, etc.?
So the investment fund would be typically you would look to invest in things like skills, and the adult education budget is one of the budgets that would ultimately transfer across to the county council. It would also be used for major infrastructure projects, be it roads, broadband, potentially mobile or other issues. So we would be looking to that. It's a mixture of capital and revenue money, but that would be to move major schemes forward, rather than, for example, something like the parish partnership scheme that would be broken down into individual joint projects with town or parish councils.
Okay, and does the local council then have to make applications for these funding, or is it done centrally somewhere?
So what I would expect, and already we've got a sort of joint document across Norfolk, the county, and all the district councils with sort of our infrastructure framework. So that's you're looking at what pieces of infrastructure would we need over the next 10, 20 years. So the waste, that's where I would expect certainly major pieces of infrastructure to come in, to be identified, wherever the gaps are, primarily publicly funded, but people will be aware, for example, of investment that Anglia Water is making at the moment to improve water supplies across the county and indeed the wider region.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, we've got a number of people with their hands up. So Tony, I think you were first. You'd like to unmute and come in with your question?
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, just been going off. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, Tom, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
First one is fairly straightforward. So you keep talking about a directly elected leader. What's the difference between a leader and a mayor in this situation?
I think it's fair to say that there's a certain reluctance. You reference back to 2015-16 discussions around a directly elected mayor. We have a tradition in the Shire areas where we have mayors of our towns, our larger towns and boroughs, rather than having a county mayor. So I think it would be, I would describe it as metropolitan speak, the idea of a mayor for Norfolk. We probably have a greater understanding as to what the leader of a council is. So certainly in discussions that have been held in the county council, we wouldn't want to pretend that this was the ceremonial mayor of Norfolk, better described as the leader of the county council.
Okay, so am I to understand then that the two phrases are interchangeable to some extent?
The powers that if, for example, Norfolk asked for a directly elected mayor, the powers presently on offer are the same. There are no lesser or additional powers by having a leader or by having a mayor. But there is, as I refer back to, we have an image or a view in Shire areas as to what a mayor does and the area that they cover. So it would be perhaps confusing.
Okay, do you mind if I ask one more simple question?
Yeah.
I'll make it quick. I mean, I've looked at this the online consultation, and I've heard what you had to say, but it's all very positive. There must be a downside to this. What would you see as the downside?
So we're deliberately, we are consulting on the draft deal that we've negotiated with government. So that's where the questions are asked. There could be, for example, some of the discussions that have been had and will be had within the county council is if you have a directly elected leader, so the people of Norfolk choose who their leader is, then the county council has no influence on what the outcome is. You could have what has been described as a personality mayor, so somebody from the world of entertainment or sport or business who hasn't been an elected representative in the past. And there would be an element of risk with that. Famously, Hartlepool, whenever they went for their directly elected mayor, probably a couple of decades ago, they elected Angus the monkey, who was the mascot of Hartlepool Town Football Club. Angus did a great job and was actually re-elected when he stood for election the next time around, because he sort of took off his mascot outfit and realised that there was a serious job to be done. But there is that risk that you would have somebody coming in to a democratic place like the county council who may not be associated with any or the majority party. So that's an unknown, which you will, I'm sure, will be factored into the equation when the county council debate this in December.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, thanks for that. Next person, Councillor Milliken, you've got your hand up, and I noticed you posted a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know whether these are going to be the same things. You can unmute.
Yep. Okay, thanks very much. It's picking up on those questions asked in the chat, but there are some other things that, with what conversations came out, I think it was Paul's comments right at the start. This 20 million, non-index linked, by the end of the term, this 20 million's worth about 7 million a year. It's very clear from your conversation, none of it's going to come to the parishes. It's going to go into, and you said it, these big schemes, such as road. That means vanity projects again, which is a real concern. Now, the only way you can actually use this 20 million efficiently is to borrow against it. To borrow large sums now and use the 20 million to repay. Is that one of the things you're going to do?
So first of all, it won't be my decision. That will be a decision for the directly elected leader, the cabinet, and the county council at the right point in time.
Yeah, it's already, they will have had to have worked it out, because we daft not to.
But I would agree with you. That there is certainly that opportunity, and it makes sense that you use the money to pay down loans that you borrow to deliver things. I would say that Norfolk has an infrastructure deficit, and whether building a Long Stratton bypass or a third river crossing in Great Yarmouth, my view is that's not a vanity project. Those are schemes that are going to deliver local benefits.
Yeah, I was thinking more like the Western Link. As I said, more money on that.
That's a scheme that the county council has committed to. But in addition, there's other things around skills. It's an accepted fact in Norfolk that we have a lower level of skills and qualifications than the rest of the east of England, and the opportunity that offshore wind, as it, for example, brings to us, if we can train our young people in those areas, then that gives them an opportunity, hopefully, to have good and rewarding careers here in Norfolk.
The next part of my question was specifically about young people. We need to be able to hold on to them in our local areas, because what's happening is this house building is building houses which are not affordable for young people. I've seen this new neutrality calculator come out saying the average household will be 1.8 people. Well, why are we building 3 and 4 bedroom houses then, if the average occupancy will be that? So we've got to find a way to keep our young people in our villages. Otherwise, all we are going to be are retirement homes for those from outside area have come in, bought into the idea of the lifestyle of Norfolk, but our young people can no longer afford to buy in our villages. So if you're going to use money, that's one of the key things you need to be using it for, to give them opportunities. And just reskilling them to work offshore, I don't think is the sole answer. There's a lot of other things that they can actually do, and not just earmarking this area for a couple of key places. It needs to be spread out across the area. And the final part is the leader. How much are they going to cost us in terms of salary and extra backup staff? And what happened? And if we can get a non-political leader, that would be great, because politics shouldn't be in local government, only at national levels. It's my personal view, because we see what's going on. So what will it cost, and how are you going to address this, keeping young people local?
So I have to agree violently with you on keeping young people local. and jobs and affordable housing is part and parcel of that. And as I said, in our ongoing negotiations with government, we're hoping to draw down some relatively modest sums, hopefully before the end of this financial year, to help secure additional affordable housing in the county, but that there is a need for large scale affordable housing building right the way across the county, not just in one or two places. The county council has an external panel that comes in and determines members' allowances. And so that would be where the directly elected leader's salary would be, or allowance would be determined. And I guess we could probably look at if it's Cambridgeshire or one of the other places to see what their incumbent gets. So that's there. The advantage of a county deal model is that effectively we're replacing one leader with a directly elected leader. So there isn't going to be the need to create a new organization to support the individual. The directly elected leader, just like Andrew Proctor as our present leader, it holds accountability for children's services, for trading standards, for highways, for libraries, and a whole range of things. So this isn't an add-in. This is just a different way of electing the leader, and it's up to the good people of Norfolk to determine if they vote for a politician or a personality, or maybe a politician with personality.
Or maybe an independent person that doesn't need to be a personality. They are out there and highly qualified, and hopefully they would want to take it on, except we have a council at the moment, a county council, with a real problem. But the final point on, you talked about affordable homes. What needs to change is South Norfolk have just removed affordable homes from their planning policy. We're having to put it back in through our neighbourhood plan. This money needs to help address those sort of things, where we've got district councils going down very different routes on housing that is affordable to buy by our young people, not just the social housing where you use the term affordable housing.
Yeah, and again, just for the sake of clarity, the county council wouldn't be taking any local planning powers off the district councils in the proposal that government has put on the table. So South Norfolk will remain the local planning authority for their area.
Yeah,
Madness.
Well, I think that's the way things are. Right, I'd like to move on now. So Ruth, you're next in the queue according to my screen.
Thank you. First an observation really, which is that there seems to be quite a lot of semantics and wishful thinking in these proposals. But my question is, what difference will it make if a Labour government is elected?
So Labour have been clear that they are very keen to roll out meaningful devolution across England. And what I would do is I would compare what's on offer in England with Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland. The English proposition is considerably watered down from those. So I would expect Labour, certainly the language that they're talking about is strong commitment to devolution. So I would hope that if anything, the agenda is sped up rather than changed or slowed down.
But would it take a different form?
It could take a different form, but again, if we look up and down the country, a number of the directly elected mayors in places like Manchester are actually Labour mayors. So I suspect, as successive governments have worked with the local government framework that they have inherited at the general election, that it would make sense for Labour to continue to work with the frameworks that are in place. If they wanted to, they could legislate to rip up all the existing devolution deals, Parliament holds those powers, but it probably wouldn't be the best use of their time or indeed resources.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Right, Claire, you're next.
Hi there, hello.
Hi.
I'd like to ask about the organisation structure. I think you've clarified very clearly about the elected leader, but could you just clarify about the Public Leaders Board and how that ties into the existing Cabinet and full council arrangements? You said in that last slide that there'd need to be a change to the governance. So could you just say a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, so the County Council's constitution as is has the present model with the leader and cabinet, where the leader is typically chosen by the majority group. The leader chooses a cabinet that they make the majority of decisions as per the constitution, with a number of key decisions such as setting the budget, you're reserved to the County Council. We would have to change our constitution to get a directly elected leader, which would be somebody elected directly by the people, and that leader would then have to choose their cabinet from amongst other county councillors. And I guess it would depend on, if I take an example, let's say the Liberal Democrat, if it's going to be political parties, the Liberal Democrat wins a majority, then the directly elected leader, I presume, would work with Liberal Democrats and perhaps other county councillors to set up their constitution. The Public Leaders Board and business boards would be advisory constructs, not part of the democratic decision-making process, but government. And again, if you people have the time or the energy to read the levelling up bill, government certainly talk in good ways around links, accountability, public question sessions for the directly elected leader, the role of scrutiny in decision making. How that works in practice in Norfolk or elsewhere will be determined as we amend our constitution in preparation for this.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really clear. Good. To come back to the question as well, I didn't think they'd been addressed about really the index linking of the 20 million. If you could say something about that, and also then what funding would we lose? What's the opportunity cost? Because so I know obviously you can't say in the next 20 years we lose, because you don't know what capital projects might be in the pipeline, but what's the loss of revenue income? What's the playoff?
So as we say, the government have said no indexation on the I'll call it the growth money, and that's consistent to what they've done with other areas. There are ways to ameliorate that, as somebody has already suggested, where you use a proportion of it to pay down loans that you use to deliver. What I would expect is that there will be other funding streams. What was it? Tees Valley got 900 million granted before Christmas. Mayor Houchin there for regeneration. There is no direct or linked reduction in revenue. We know we'll see what beauties come out of the budget next week. We are fully expecting that post the next general election that public funding will be trimmed back, and we're kind of expecting that will be delayed until after the general election, presumably to try and hit the general election period with some element of national feel-good. But that's my comment and reading of the situation, rather than government telling us that.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Right. Okay. If I sorry to keep you waiting, Nigel, but if I could just jump in there. There's a question that's been raised in the chat, which relates to the point that Claire was just making, is in as much that the county is accepting extra responsibilities from Whitehall? How does the extra funding that's going along with those responsibilities compare to the current funding that Whitehall itself perhaps is putting into performing those functions, and indeed the costs that will be associated with adopting those extra functions?
Yeah, so the investment fund that they often talked about, 20 million a year, that isn't identified in any additional, it's in any present funding streams that Norfolk gets. What we do know is when the adult education budget comes across, from memory, it's somewhere just below £10 million at present. We would expect that to be completely passported across to Norfolk for us to then work with our with our colleges and over a period of time evolve the courses that we run. So I would hope, if it's not too naive, that the money gets passported across, rather than you trimmed and cuts and then a run passed across to us. And again, the logic being, if government wants to deliver real changes and improvements, they're not going to do that with sort of good wishes and lighting candles in the cathedral. It's going to take a long-term investment to make things better.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, thanks for your indulgence, Nigel. It's over to you now.
Thanks, no problem. You've partly answered the questions I was going to ask Tom. One was very much along the lines that you've just been talking about, is this new money, basically? Is this extra money, or is it basically going to be taken away in other ways? I think you've answered that. I would just outline, I think, concern, which I'm sure is shared by many people, that you could argue that local priorities are in other areas than the areas that this is subject to. Thinking particularly about social care, for example, this is doing nothing to address the issues in that field. The second point I was going to ask, again, had been partly answered, which is about changes in governance, and specifically, you've talked about the role of the elected leader being, it seems to me, almost exactly the same as the current system. Are there any changes to the powers that the elected leader will have? Or is basically the decision-making system, notwithstanding what you said about various advisory groups, pretty much the same as it is now?
If I can pick up just a few of the points on the new money, one of the reasons to engage with government is to try and ensure Norfolk gets, at the very least, a fair share. If indeed we can't actually you grab some additional money from government. Government have deliberately veered their funding plans and biased them towards devolution deals. So as we go into a tighter fiscal settlement, us having a deal hopefully puts us in a better position. On local priorities, you're absolutely right. The county council spends 75% of its revenue, give or take, on about 5% of the population. You're supporting some of our very vulnerable elderly or younger residents. The remainder, the 25%, is sort of the universal services. The deal, as constructed at the moment, is focused on the things that government has pushed forward in the bill. So that's some of the big stuff like regeneration, infrastructure, skills. But certainly the likes of Manchester have had discussions and landed deals with government moving into the area of social care and health. And that's the thing that will bankrupt the country if we don't get it right. And largely, I would suggest that your reading is accurate around we're moving from a leader who is selected by the largest group in the county council, and the constitution then says the powers that the leader has, and that they normally operate through their cabinet. The key difference with this is that it's the general population who elect the leader, the leader then chooses their cabinet, but their powers, as set out in the Constitution, will be very similar to the powers that Councillor Proctor exercises as leader at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Right, Tim, over to you.
Good afternoon, Tom, and very nice to see you. And thank you for providing us with a chance to ask questions of you. As you probably know, I'm president of the Norfolk Association of Local Councils, and I'm speaking on behalf of that presidency. As you would imagine, I'm slightly disappointed that there is no line for looking differently at the future of the role of local councils in this deal. There's phrasing here called New Deal, devolution, levelling up. These phrases are bandied around, Tom. But we really need to be in a situation, surely, of re-looking at how we run ourselves in relation to the next 5 or 10 years. Now, we may or may not get another government in 2025, and that's not the issue for that which I'm raising. This gives us an opportunity for the local councils' voices to be heard, re-looking at the way in which they run themselves in relation to a new deal for Norfolk, not to have the local council given a chance to change the way they see themselves, how they run themselves, how they finance themselves in relation to a changing Norfolk is, in my view, a massively missed opportunity. So I'm urging you to talk to your friends in the county council and see whether there's an opportunity for the Norfolk Association of Local Councils and their colleagues, this is a collective effort, to have some direct input into these discussions, to look very more critically, carefully and supportively at how local councils might be able to change their ways and improve their services, and above all, improve their powers and their resources, and not just to stay the same, because all the signs are from this conversation the local councils could be marginally worse off at the end of this process if money is not so available and is tied up in infrastructure. And that would be a great opportunity missed, Tom. So please give us a chance to have a discussion on this before we reach the final stages of this process of so-called New Deal.
But very happy to bring that feedback to the council leader. What I would say is that the county council works either via NALC or directly with a range of councils on stuff from highways, more recently with community resilience through the pandemic, the emergency planning, the flooding stuff. But as I can't disagree with you, Tim, there isn't a line either writ through the legislation or the proposals at this point in time to say how can we add additional heft to the role of town and parish councils. I will bring that feedback to the leader. Very happy to do that.
I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tim. Thank you for that, Tom, for that commitment. Right, Peter, we get round to you now.
Yeah, hi. I'm chair of a small parish council in North Norfolk, and reading the overview of devolution, I'm trying to see ways where perhaps the parish councils can gain directly from this proposed change, or are they going to be largely unaffected? The changes will all happen above us.
So largely unaffected, as indeed our district councils. I suppose wearing my other hats, be it on highways or the county council in more general, we have had some successes where we as a county council have worked with town and parishes to delegate local issues to you. You will have your own views as to the success or otherwise of those, but more than happy to work through the good offices of NALC. If somebody wants their verge cutting, if somebody wants to, this is something that the county council or one of our contractors does to, if I describe it as a mediocre level in your area, can we shift the funding for that directly to the parish councils? We've got some track record of doing that, and never say never would be my my motto on that one.
Yeah, Thanks for that, Tom. I'm picking up what Peter just said and what Tim said. I think what you're hearing from us is that there's a keenness and a willingness to work with county on in truth, trying to improve things for our communities and the people who live here. Right, there's a couple of questions in the chat that perhaps we could pick up at this point. Tony has asked why the election of the leader is going forward or proposed to go forward in 2024 rather than waiting until 2025 and to align it with the county council elections that are due in 25.
So that has evolved from discussions with government. The way things are set up at the moment, the county council has a 4-year cycle. So elections were in 21, they'll be again in 25. The directly elected leader vote would be in May 24. They would have an initial 5-year term, and then the leader and overall county council elections would be coincident from there forward. The advantage of having it the year earlier is drawing down the powers. You being able to make things happen in 2024 rather than waiting another 12 months.
So it's a practical question. It's about getting on with it and not waiting just for the sake of aligning in the short term. Okay. Yeah. And again, picking up again, how is this deal different from the deals that have been negotiated in other areas? Where are we gaining? Where are we losing? What else might we aspire to? I suppose.
Yeah. So there has been discussion in Norfolk and some of the other. So if I pick Cambridgeshire as a shire county, what we have there is a mayoral combined authority. So the mayor is of Cambridge and Peterborough, directly elected by the people of Cambridge and Peterborough. Their combined authority then is made up of respective leaders of districts and unitary and county councils, and they have a combined authority. They have a secretariat, a bureaucracy around the combined authority. This is different. Government, I think, has looked at the success or the relative success if it's in London, Manchester, Andy Street in Birmingham, where the majority of those are areas where they have single tier metropolitan councils. So in Manchester, the mayor's cabinet, the combined authority, is the 10 leaders of the 10 Manchester councils, with the mayor chairing that. So that's the difference. In 2-tier areas, the problem is the districts have some powers, the county have some powers. You can't have district leaders making decisions that are the county councils at the combined authority. You can't have the county making decisions that are reserved for the districts at the combined authority. Some people locally have strongly advocated for the combined authority. That's not on the table at this point in time. And referencing the fiscal challenges that we'll have ahead, this is the deal that's on the table. So there makes a lot of merit in landing this deal and then using that as your next negotiating point to try and draw more powers and more funding into Norfolk.
Yeah, so take what's available now and see how you can improve on it in the future. Which partially leads me into the next question, the final one that's up on the chat. What happens after the deal time ends? When we get to the end of the period.
In 30 years' time, so that's more fingers than I have. I guess what we will see is the areas such as Manchester, Birmingham, West Midlands, and others who are 5 years or so ahead of us. So we'll see what government does. I suspect the government of the day will look at, you would hope things have evolved over the 30 years. There is a view of thought, that power is more centralized and concentrated in England than you generally across Western Europe. And I guess as town and parish councillors, one of the things you've talked about is how can we bring power and funding direct, at a community, town and parish level, rather than just even necessarily arguing if it sits in County Hall or Whitehall. So I suspect, without directly answering the question, it'll depend on the government of the day and probably the success of this model over the 30 years of its life.
And as you said earlier, it's an iterative process. There'll be several stages, and it will develop and evolve in light of experience with the earlier stages. Right, so that's exhausted all the questions we've got there. Has anybody? We're coming down to the last few minutes of the time allocated for this meeting. Has anybody got any other burning questions they want to put to Tom at the moment? Okay, I'll take that as no. And just to say, we will be posting the presentation on our website, so you'll be able to go in there and see the links to take you to the consultation pages on Norfolk County Council's own website. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we will be posting a recording of this webinar, so if you want to go back and revisit anything here, you can. And also to say there is a further webinar next Tuesday evening, so if anybody that you know of who hasn't been able to make today, there will be a second chance where Paul Cracknell will be hosting that webinar and answering questions. So there'll be a second opportunity for people to go. So it just remains with me at the moment to say thank you all, as I said, for turning out or not turning out, staying in your homes in the warm and out of the cold outside. And thank you very much for Tom for making yourself available to tell us a bit more about the deal and to answer the questions. And we hope we haven't given you too rough a time today. Anyway, thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, there we go. All right, you're on mute, Sarah.
That those two didn't stop or just thing there, which is
It says to me they weren't listening, but hey ho.